Bushnell Tour V6 is still seen as the premium rangefinder on the market. But do you need to spend all this money, or are there some better alternatives out there? In this review, we're going to test this for accuracy, build quality, and much more, and let you know if this is still the one you should go for, or if you should be spending your money elsewhere. So let's start with accuracy. We test all of these rangefinders on a predetermined range and against another premium rangefinder just to make sure that they do perform as well as they say. The Bushnell V6 promises to be accurate to within 1 yard, and it outperformed that metric. We found that it had perfect scores at 50 yards, 100 yards, 150 yards, and 200 yards. So it joins an exclusive club of only 3 rangefinders we've ever tested that has perfect scores on our range. I think the other really important thing is how well this does perform on the golf course. This is one of the key reasons people go for a Bushnell rangefinder, and on the golf course it is incredibly good at locking onto your target and locking onto the pin without picking up the background. And I have to say that there is still very little on the market that can match the Bushnell in terms of that performance. What about speed? So a few of the Bushnell rangefinders in the past got a little bit sluggish, particularly when they're trying to pick up the pin. But I have to say that is one of the biggest improvements with the V6 model. It really does pick up the pin quickly, gives you that beautiful jolt, and lets you know when you are locked onto your target. In terms of modes, you've got nothing fancy here, but I really like that on a rangefinder. You've obviously got slope mode on here. You can toggle that on and off with a button on the side, so it's tournament legal. And then at the top, you've got a mode button and a fire button, so you can make any adjustments you need to in terms of switching it between yards and meters and toggling it between pin seeker mode and being able to scan the background. I think one key thing to state is that the Tour V6 Shift comes with slope mode, and there is the Tour V6 that does not have slope mode. Now I think that it's quite a lot of extra money that Bushnell are charging for slope mode, but that is something that we will come to towards the end of the video. Bushnell are known for their visuals and optics, and we'd expect nothing less than a really well performing rangefinder, and what we get is exactly that. So you've got your usual 6x zoom, it picks up the flag from a very long way away, and as we mentioned earlier, it rarely picks up the background. Along with that, you've got a really nice red ring that appears around the edge of the rangefinder when you are locked onto the pin, along with the classic jolt that makes sure that you are locked onto your target. In terms of usability, we've got a little bit of a mixed bag. The rangefinder itself I can't really fault. It's super simple to use. As we mentioned earlier, it picks up the flag incredibly well, and you've even got a built-in magnet if you do want to attach it to a cart or a trolley and grab it quickly during the round. However, when we get to the carry case, it's really well built, but it just doesn't quite open wide enough, and you kind of have to fiddle a little bit to get the rangefinder. And for something of this price, I really want something to work perfectly well. So it's solid for usability, but I would say there's a couple of tweaks that could probably be made to improve it. Let's talk about build quality. Now, Bushnells have always been really well made, and this is no exception. In our drop test, it came through with flying colours, and there's not even a mark on this thing. So impressive work from Bushnell, and it still probably is the sturdiest rangefinder on the market today. Bushnell have updated the casing to make sure it is the most waterproof model they have made to date, and in our rain simulation testing it passed again with flying colours. We have a minute of heavy rain followed by a minute of light rain, and afterwards there is no change to the performance of the rangefinder. So let's get on to the verdict of the Bushnell Tour V6 Shift. It is an incredibly good rangefinder and very hard to fault. It scored 100% in our accuracy test. It is still probably the best in class at picking up the flag rather than the background when you're out on the golf course. And it is really easy to use and very well made. So it is still an incredibly good rangefinder for the price. However, I would now say that there are more alternatives on the market that you can look at. So let's look at some of the alternatives if this feels like it's not the one for you. First alternative you could consider is the Cobalt. The Cobalt Q6 is a little bit more expensive than the Bushnell, so it really is premium, but it probably is the one rangefinder on the market that is more accurate than the Bushnell, purely because of the point it goes down to 0.1 of a yard rather than rounding down to full yards. For most people that's overkill, but it is something to consider. I think the more likely option for many golfers is, do they need to buy the Bushnell or should they save some money? Now, if you're looking for something with slope function and it's built just as well as the Bushnell, the closest thing to it is probably the ShotScope Pro ZR. It's really well built, it has all of the functionality you need, and in testing it is almost as accurate as the Bushnell, so that's certainly one to check out, and we'll leave a link below. If you're really looking to save cash but want something as accurate as a Bushnell, the only thing that we've come across is the ShotScope Pro L2. Now in accuracy testing it's got 100% the same as the Bushnell, but what we would say is the Bushnell is certainly superior in terms of picking out the flag on the golf course. The Pro L2 does a really good job of this and much better than anything in its class, but you still do get more bang for your buck in terms of performance with the Bushnell Tour V6 and the ShotScope Pro ZR. That wraps up our review of the Bushnell Tour V6 Shift. Hopefully it's been helpful. As always, if you've got any comments or feedback, just leave them below.